everyone! So today we're going to react to 10 real-life supervillains that actually exist, and this is from The Richest, so yeah, let's get started.
Most comic book fans have wished at one point or another that they could live between the pages of their favorite adventure. However, when you think about it, reality has its own superheroes too. And for every superhero,
wouldn't that be so weird if we actually had like superheroes?
Here are 10 real-life supervillains
the
actually
actual
exist.
movie type
Before we
things.
start
That'd be so
practicing
weird,
our
but kind of
maniacal
fun.
laughs, be sure to click that red subscribe button for more superpowered fun. And don't worry, we haven't booby-trapped it. Marvin Heemeyer. Roughly 16 miles from Granby, Colorado, there is a town called Grand Lake. 52-year-old Marvin Heemeyer had lived in this sleepy little suburb for many years, working as a welder in his own muffler repair shop. One day, however, something inside Heemeyer snapped. He'd been having zoning issues with the city over his land. Heemeyer tried to appeal and even petition the city, but to no avail. They voted in favor of a local cement manufacturing plant. Rather than continue the legal battles, Heemeyer sold the property and was given 6 months to vacate. In that time, he began work on a secret project. On June 4th, 2004, Heemeyer emerged from his former shop in an armored bulldozer. The monstrosity was outfitted with concrete and steel, completely covering the cabin and engine. It was also armed, but thankfully he never fired a single round. Heemeyer then went on a rampage, bulldozing the town hall, the local newspaper office, and several other buildings. The seemingly unstoppable tank raged through town for just over 2 hours, destroyed 19 buildings, and causing more than $7 million in damages. Eventually, the bulldozer's engine failed and plummeted into a basement. Vladimir Kozak.
How did it take 2 hours to not stop him?
Kozak
That's a long time.
earned his nickname as the Hypno Robber. Now, we know what you're thinking. According to all the experts, a person under hypnosis will not do anything that is asked of them. That can only happen in the movies, right? Well, that and apparently Moldova, the poorest country in Europe. Kozak would stroll into various banks and simply ask the teller to give him the money. Bank employees claimed he would initiate eye contact with them and speak in a soothing voice. They also said they were powerless to resist his hypnotic requests.
That is so
It's
creepy.
believed that Kozak was able to steal tens of thousands of dollars in cold hard cash from 6 different banks using his hypnotic abilities. The Moldova police, stumped by how Kozak was getting away with the robberies, advised tellers to avoid eye contact with all clients until the thief was caught. As far as we know, Kozak has completely gotten away with his crimes and is enjoying the spoils of his heist somewhere. As for the Moldova police, maybe they need to gather serial bot stops to send away for hypnotic powers of their own.
Oh my gosh. They haven't caught him yet?
Rivera
That is
Velez.
crazy.
36-year-old Juan Rivera Velez was an enforcer and hitman for one of Camden's biggest trafficking organizations. That on its own makes him a pretty sinister kind of guy, but his appearance is what edges him into supervillain territory. When he was younger, Juan was in a car accident. As a result, his face was disfigured and horribly scarred, but only on one side. This earned him the nickname of Two-Face. Like his namesake, Juan was known to be ruthless. According to court documents, Two-Face Juan was active in the organization between 1993 and 2003. In that time, he carried out terrible deeds for his employer, Raymond Morales, through threats, intimidation, and worse. When the organization was finally dismantled by police, Juan was among those arrested. Due to the severity of his crimes, he was tried and found guilty of a multitude of offenses. At his sentencing, the prosecutor stated he is a violent man and it took very little to provoke him. Every day he is free would be a danger to society. Dang. It seems like the jury agreed with him. As a result, he received 2 life sentences plus 300 months in federal prison.
Oh my god, that's a lot. That's
when
creepy.
the Allegiance of Heroes appeared in Cincinnati in 2005, it caused quite a stir. Led by the vigilante Shadowhair, they have promised to rid their city of evildoers. However, the ruthless organization Against Citizen Heroes, or Roach for short, wasn't happy to hear that. It was founded by the evil mastermind, the Potentate. He claims that exposure to the radiation from a jumbotron as a child, coupled with freezing cold temperatures, endowed him with near invulnerability and super intelligence. Hey, you never know, it could happen. The potentate, who keeps his everyday persona a mystery, created Roach when he realized that the so-called superheroes had no supervillains to oppose them. After all, what's the point of being super when there's no one to foil? Another arch-villain society, the Consortium of Evil, the dark side to the World Superhero Registry's light side, put out a $10 bounty on Craigslist to reveal Shadowhair's true identity. However, they weren't able to discover the wannabe crime fighter's real name, only that he was in his early 20s. The potentate, in the meantime, spends his days in his impenetrable headquarters constantly searching for new henchmen.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous.
Joseph Konopka. Most supervillains seem to want nothing less than world domination, but what motivates them? Fame, fortune, simply to prove that they can? In Joseph Konopka's case, it seems to be the latter. He worked as a computer systems administrator, making $50,000 a year before he quit his job and adopted the nickname Dr. Chaos. He then turned to the internet to recruit a team of online henchmen. They became known as the Realm of Chaos. You have to admit, it does sound like a pretty super-villainy organization.
Yeah.
Using his vast computer knowledge, Konopka and his minions caused 28 power failures across Wisconsin, shut down air traffic control towers, disrupted TV and radio broadcasts, set fires, and caused roughly $3 million in damages.
The traffic
By
control
2002,
thing's really
the
scary.
police
Anything
finally caught
happen.
up with Konopka near the University of Illinois in Chicago. He had been trespassing in the underground tunnel system beneath the university
That's
when
creepy.
he was arrested. The police then
Oh my god,
discovered
that's so
that
scary.
he had been
Someone could be
stockpiling
living under
cyanide
you when you're in school.
unused rooms. In March 2003, he was sentenced to 13 years for hiding the cyanide. Then, in June 2005, he was sentenced to 21 years for his role in the Realm of Chaos.
Wow.
Riddle us this, folks. It's time for a quiz. In the DC universe, which of Batman's arch nemesis carried a modified umbrella? Stay tuned to find out.
A modified umbrella?
Francois Duvalier. Sometimes reality throws people a curveball of a backstory that sounds like something right out of a comic book. That was the case with Dr. Francois Duvalier. He was the son of Duval Duvalier, a judge, and Ulyssia Abraham, who was literally insane. All that was missing was a dose of radiation to turn him into a true cartoon supervillain. In 1957, he became the president of Haiti, and that's when his reign of terror began. Duvalier was a strong believer in voodoo and began referring to himself as Papa Doc, the president for life. Instead of worrying about things like environmental issues or the economy, Duvalier reinvented himself as some kind of chosen one. And no voodoo dictator would be complete without a scary, not-so-secret police force. Using the Creole word for boogeyman, they became known as Tonton Macoute. Under his direct orders, the rural militia roamed the island with machetes. They would cut down anyone that crossed their path and claim they were exorcising demons. By the time he passed away in 1971, it was estimated that more than 30,000 innocent people lost their lives, and many more were exiled during his dictatorship. Rodrigo
That is the worst thing I've
Duterte.
ever heard. Oh my god, that's so sad.
There aren't many city mayors who ride to work on a motorcycle, curse like a drunken sailor, and carry a pistol. That's where Rodrigo Duterte, mayor of Davao City, comes in. As one of the biggest cities in the Philippines, Davao City had its share of problems. When Duterte was first elected as mayor in the 1980s, he made it his mission to weed out the criminal element. At first, he seemed more like a Wild West sheriff than a mayor, and gradually moved up the ranks to supervillain. Duterte wasn't a big believer in trials. He preferred to take on the role of judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one. He put together a ragtag group of right-wing vigilantes known as the DDS. Members of the Davao Squad would advise crooks that they'd landed themselves on Duterte's list, which basically meant get your act together, get out, or else. Nearly 900 people disappeared following these interventions, including teenage hoodlums and homeless people. The most terrifying part, Duterte became the president of the Philippines in June 2016. Rex Velvet. Back in 2011, reports began to surface about a living and breathing vigilante fighting crime in the Pacific Northwest. He called himself Phoenix Jones. As we all know, every superhero needs a nemesis. Rex Velvet is just that. He is a bowler hat-wearing, sword cane-wielding, mustache-wrapped rapscallion with a warehouse lair.
He looks like
Did
a
we
character
mention
out of a
he
movie.
also sports a monocle? Because nothing says sophisticated madman like a flashy monocle. Like many villains, Rex Velvet, whose real name is Ryan Corey, wants nothing more than to stop his city's superhero. He feels that the vigilante justice is a blight on society and needs to be snuffed out.
He looks
They
like a
cause
model,
nothing
though.
but a ruckus, he says. Unlike your typical meanie, however, Rex Velvet wants to stop Phoenix Jones because he and his sidekicks are interfering with the police. Don't let that fool you, though. He's still a cold-hearted criminal. After all, he did kidnap the Seahawks mascot one time. Yes, it was for a Make-A-Wish Foundation request, but it's still pretty villainy, right? Gerald Blanchard.
So weird.
While vacationing in Austria in 1997, Gerald Blanchard, a Canadian, was visiting the Schloss Schönbrunn Palace. While he was there, the Cohort Diamond Pearl, a 19th century hairpin worth $2 million, caught his eye. He was no ordinary visitor, you see. While no one was looking, he unlocked a nearby window and loosened the screws of the security case with his keys. That night, he returned under the cover of darkness, and in a very James Bond supervillain-esque manner, he parachuted onto the roof of the palace. From there, he climbed through the window he'd unlocked earlier that day, slipped past the motion sensors, and replaced the hairpin with a replica from the gift shop. With the piece of jewelry in hand, he retreated to the window and rappelled down the side of the building. The next day, he returned to the scene of the crime. Why? To watch as tourists gawked, oohed, and awed at the fake on display.
God.
As it turned out, Blanchard was a pretty successful career thief like Marvel's Black Cat. He was finally caught in 2007, but cut a deal. Basically, he helped to improve security against people like him in exchange for a shorter sentence. Lawrence Patrick Sullivan. 29-year-old Lawrence Patrick Sullivan was arrested by Miami-Dade County Police on May 23, 2017 for allegedly pointing a loaded gun at drivers as they passed him. When police responded to a panicked 911 call regarding the green-haired man, Sullivan had already moved on. It didn't take long for the police to catch up with him, leaving the Hammock's Place apartments in Miami, Florida. According to the police report, he was found with a Smith & Wesson. When asked about it, Sullivan admitted that he was armed, but he didn't have a concealed carry license, saying it was too expensive. Police confiscated the boomstick and arrested Sullivan. During his bail hearing, Sullivan told the judge that he lives with his mother. When asked about his occupation, he stated that he was a tattoo model, even though he looks more like a certain DC supervillain. Didn't we mention Sullivan's facial tattoos are not only extensive, but make him look like a cross between Heath Ledger and Jared Leto's iconic portrayals of the Joker. In the end, he was charged with carrying a concealed firearm and is being held on a $5,000 bond. For the record, a concealed carry license in Florida costs only $102.
I was guessing $100.
It's nearly over, but we're not done yet. Did you figure out which of Batman's nemesis carried a modified umbrella? If you guessed the Penguin, you're right. Oswald Cobblepot was armed with a specialized umbrella that contained knockout gas, a flamethrower, and even a mini helicopter.
That was that video. That was really interesting to see that there's actually like supervillain type people living among us here, I guess. But the thing with the Joker guy, how he was like pointing a loaded gun at drivers, that reminded me of the freeway shooter in Phoenix. I know because I live in Arizona, but that just reminded me of it. That happened a few years. Just weird how his arrest or whatever just happened like literally like a week ago, so that's kind of creepy. But and then like so many of these people in power are getting away with so much. Like, it's insane what's going on in the world right now, but yeah, it's pretty scary. I always wonder if that will happen one day, like if someone will actually dress up as a superhero and like go fight crime. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Someone's already doing it. That one guy in the black and yellow like outfit costume. So maybe there will be more. Who knows? So yeah, I hope you guys liked that video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I just made a Twitter and an Instagram, so make sure to follow me. I also got a request to make a Q&A, and I would love to do that like either later in this week or next week when I get a ton of questions that you guys want me to answer. Comment down below in any of my videos and I'll make sure to gather them all and answer the questions. And you can also ask me on Twitter. That would be great. And yeah, I just want to have a nice connection with you guys and let you guys get to know me a little better. So I think that's really cool. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Supervillains. Oh. Hey everyone, so today we're going to be reacting to